A bakery can lose customers without even realizing why, until the street suddenly feels quieter. Welcome to another video based on the book What People Get Wrong About Economics, a guide to the core concepts by Library of Ideas. Today I tell you about competition and why markets do not depend only on freedom but also on pressure. Imagine owning a small cafe in a busy city neighborhood. For years, customers arrive almost automatically. Coffee is decent. Prices are acceptable. The routine feels stable. Then a new cafe opens across the street. At first, nothing dramatic happens. A few curious people wander in to try it. But over the next weeks, the pattern changes. The morning queue shortens slightly. Regular customers start appearing less often. Someone mentions better pastries elsewhere. Another says service feels faster there. Suddenly, comfort disappears. And this is the strange thing about competition. Most of the time, nobody forces businesses to improve directly. There is no official standing behind the counter threatening punishment. The pressure comes indirectly, from the possibility that customers can leave. That possibility changes behavior constantly. It pushes prices downward, rewards efficiency, punishes stagnation, and forces producers to keep adapting, even when they would rather stay comfortable. Which, honestly, makes competition one of the few forces in human civilization that consistently refuses to tolerate complacency for very long. It is a cold morning in Chicago. Wind cuts sharply between the buildings, and Emma pulls her coat tighter as she steps into the bakery she has visited for years. The smell is familiar. Warm bread, a trace of cinnamon. The shelves are full. She reaches for her usual loaf and glances at the small white price label. 20% higher. She looks up at the man behind the counter. Costs are rising, he says, as if that explains everything. Emma hesitates for a second, then pays anyway. What choice does she really have? This bakery has always been here. It feels almost like part of the neighborhood itself. 2 weeks later, a new sign appears across the street. Fresh paint, bright windows, a new bakery opening on Saturday, lower prices, longer opening hours, free coffee with the first purchase. Curiosity pulls her inside. The bread is good. The queue moves quickly. The staff seems strangely energetic, the way humans become when they are still trying to win customers instead of merely keeping them. And back at the old bakery, something begins to change. A small promotion sign appears in the window. The packaging improves. The man behind the counter smiles more often. Prices soften slightly. The bread itself has not changed very much, but the atmosphere has. Nothing dramatic happened. No laws changed. No speeches were given. Just another door opening across the street. And suddenly, the entire morning routine feels different. The first reaction is almost automatic. The new bakery is clearly trying to undercut the old one. Lower prices, longer hours, free coffee. It looks tactical. Win customers quickly, pressure the rival, take over the street. Many people see competition this way, a fight, a struggle where one side must lose for the other to win. Even the language sounds military. Capture market share, defend your position, attack with discounts. Humans do have an impressive talent for turning ordinary bread sales into something that sounds like a medieval siege. Standing on the pavement between the two bakeries, the tension feels real. Which shop will still exist in a year? Which owner miscalculated? Which business stretched itself too far? It looks like a battle for survival. And sometimes it truly becomes one. Businesses fail, owners lose savings, familiar places disappear from neighborhoods, streets change slowly, then suddenly. But if we stop at this surface level, we miss something more important underneath. Because the visible conflict is only part of the story. The deeper mechanism is quieter and far more powerful. The question begins to shift. Is competition really there so firms can fight each other? Or is it there so customers are not trapped by just one of them? And here a single word comes properly into focus: competition. It is easy to imagine competition as aggression, one bakery attacking another, discounts used like weapons, advertising treated like strategy in a war room. But at its core, competition is something much simpler. It is the possibility of choice. The real center of the story is not the two bakers staring at each other across the street. It is Emma. As long as only one bakery existed, her options were limited. If prices rose, she could complain, but she would probably still pay. There was nowhere else to go. The higher price barely needed justification because the customer had no meaningful alternative. Then the second bakery opened, and immediately the old price changed meaning. It stopped being just a number and became a comparison, a decision, an option among other options. That is when the pressure appeared. Not because the original baker suddenly became kinder or morally enlightened overnight. Human beings rarely experience miraculous ethical transformation through exposure to pastries. He changed because Emma could now walk somewhere else. That possibility alone forced him to respond. And this is the deeper mechanism behind competition. It disciplines producers by giving customers the power to leave. Competition works like a quiet form of supervision. No inspector stands behind the counter, no official controls the bakery directly, and yet the simple existence of another option changes behavior. The baker knows that if prices rise too far, Emma can cross the street instead. That possibility alone keeps prices within certain limits. Competition shapes quality as well. If the bread becomes dry, if the service grows careless, if the atmosphere feels unpleasant, customers begin comparing experiences. Reputation no longer survives through habit alone, it survives through alternatives. Even profits attract pressure. When a business earns unusually high returns for a long time, other people notice. Rivals appear. New firms try entering the same market. Success quietly invites competition. And without this pressure, something different often happens. Prices rise without corresponding improvements. Innovation slows. Inefficiencies hide comfortably inside routine. Customers lose leverage because there is nowhere else to go. Competition disrupts that comfort, not because firms suddenly become virtuous, not because markets transform human beings into moral heroes through the mystical power of baked goods and accounting software. Businesses adapt because they must. That is the discipline competition creates, and it is not always gentle. Some companies fail, some workers lose jobs, some experiments collapse completely. Competition can be messy, unstable, and occasionally brutal. But it also contains a corrective force. It does not promise goodness. It limits stagnation. But competition is not always gentle. In California's technology sector, a single platform can grow so large that it becomes the default choice for millions of people. Scale creates advantages. More users generate more data. Better data improves the service. Better service attracts even more users, and slowly alternatives struggle to survive. Not because competitors are formally banned, but because the dominant platform becomes too efficient, too familiar, too deeply embedded in everyday life. In a small town somewhere in Eastern Europe, the situation may look completely different while producing a similar result. There may be only one pharmacy, simply because the town is too small to support two. A second business could never cover its costs. The lack of competition is not planned. It emerges naturally from geography and scale. So when competition disappears, what exactly are we looking at? A market failure or a normal outcome of how certain industries function? And the tension does not end there. Competition itself can become destructive. Businesses may cut prices so aggressively that profits vanish for everyone involved. Price wars can exhaust entire industries. Stability weakens. Long-term investment becomes harder because margins are too thin to support future planning. This is where the conflict sharpens. Efficiency pushes firms to compete harder, lower costs further, and grow larger. Stability sometimes requires breathing space, restraint, or even protection from endless pressure. The balance is fragile. And this question keeps returning whenever societies debate monopolies, regulation, concentrated power, and the role of the state itself. Because humans want competition right up until it threatens the comfort and stability they also demand at the same time. From a distance, the picture becomes clearer. Competition is not a moral virtue. It is not kindness. It is not generosity or fairness. It is pressure built directly into the structure of the market. And when that pressure exists, prices begin carrying real meaning. They reflect genuine constraints, real comparisons, real alternatives. Profit becomes a signal that resources are being used in ways other people value. Loss becomes a warning that something is failing or misaligned. But remove competition, and those signals begin weakening. Prices can drift away from reality because nobody meaningfully challenges them. Profit can continue without efficiency. The market slowly starts resembling administration, where outcomes depend more on position and control than on customer choice. A monopoly is not automatically evil. Sometimes it emerges naturally from innovation, scale, geography, or efficiency itself. But without alternatives, something important disappears. Self-discipline. There is no nearby substitute, no immediate comparison, no simple way for customers to respond by leaving. And this matters because markets do not decay merely because human beings are greedy. Greed exists everywhere, inside markets, inside governments, inside bureaucracies, inside every system humans have ever created since somebody first traded grain and immediately wondered how to gain slightly more grain next time. What limits greed is counter-pressure. When that pressure fades, concentration becomes comfortable. And this question returns again and again whenever societies argue about monopolies, inequality, regulation, central banking, or the relationship between political and economic power. Behind all those debates stands one quiet question. Who actually has a real alternative? Emma pauses on the pavement, coffee warming her hands, looking from one bakery window to the other. The old bakery feels familiar, predictable. The new one feels fresher, more energetic. She studies the displays for a moment, then steps into one of them. Tomorrow morning she could easily choose the other instead. Nothing dramatic happens afterwards. The bread is still warm. The crust still cracks beneath her fingers. Traffic continues moving through the street exactly as before. People hurry to work, barely noticing the quiet tension between the two shop fronts. On the surface, almost nothing has changed, but something essential has. The decision now belongs to her, and that changes everything. It is not only the exact price that matters, not even the taste, though that matters too. What truly shifts the balance is the simple fact that Emma can walk away. The baker understands this. She understands it too, and that shared awareness shapes behavior more powerfully than any promotion sign hanging in the window. As long as Emma can cross the street, both bakeries must pay attention. They must improve. They must adapt. The bread itself is still just bread, but the existence of choice gives it a different weight. And as long as the possibility of leaving remains real, the market itself remains alive. The two bakeries never needed to hate each other for competition to work. That is the deeper point. Competition is not mainly about conflict. It is about preventing comfort from becoming permanent. It is the quiet pressure created by the possibility that customers can leave, compare, and choose differently tomorrow. Here is the thought to carry forward. Markets stay alive only while alternatives remain real. Without alternatives, prices lose discipline. Quality drifts. Innovation slows. Power becomes comfortable. But when people can walk away, businesses are forced to pay attention in ways no speech or slogan can permanently guarantee. And yet, competition alone does not explain where new ideas come from in the first place. Because before Emma could choose between two bakeries, somebody first had to look at the street and think, this neighbourhood might want something different. That moment matters enormously. The market does not evolve only through pressure. It also changes through discovery, through people noticing opportunities others ignored, misunderstood, or never even imagined. In the next episode, we move to one of the most misunderstood figures in economics, the entrepreneur. Not simply a business owner, but someone trying to see what others do not yet see. If what you have just watched made you pause and think, that was the intention. This film is only one chapter from a much larger story. The book it comes from explores 34 of the most misunderstood ideas in economics. It began as something personal. A father trying to explain the world to his teenage daughter. Why prices rise. Why some societies prosper while others struggle. Why good intentions often produce unexpected consequences. The film shows only part of the picture. The book goes further, with additional chapters and ideas that never appeared in the series. If you would like to explore the full journey, What People Get Wrong About Economics is available now on Amazon. The link is in the description below.